Time is the fire in which we burn. Perhaps you heard this line from the Delmore Schwartz poem, Calmly We Walk Through This April's Day, in some context or other. Maybe it was Star Trek. The point is, it underscores how very finite our time is. Not quite so often quoted, however, is the line that comes right after that. This is the school in which we learn. While I've enjoyed photography for as long as I've known about cameras, it's only been in the last few years that I've started taking it seriously. I started off just taking pictures that I liked, not really understanding what made them good, to intentionally making pictures, paying attention to lighting, composition, and other elements. Basically, my good pictures went from being accidents to intentional. So at the time of this video's production, I'm staring out at a big blank expanse of another year. I can't say for certain when you're going to see this video. Perhaps you'll be watching it January 2020 with everybody else, or perhaps you stumbled across the photo channel sometime in the middle of July, in which case, welcome. Whenever it is that you happen to be watching this video, my goal here is to compress 5 years of my learning into a single video, into 5 pieces of advice that you can follow in the course of a single year. There's a chance even that your photography is at a greater level than my own. Even if that is the case, however, I hope that the advice in this video is something that you'll find helpful. The point of this video isn't so that you can get better than me. It's so that you can get better than you are right now. Number 1. Evaluate and challenge yourself. Of all the pieces of advice on this list, I feel like this may be the most challenging to pull off, largely because we are our own worst critics, both in and out of our favor. Case in point, it's easy to take a picture that you love, that you really, really love, and to overlook all the flaws in it. You might look at your picture and think, this is great. And I think that's fantastic. It's important to celebrate your own work, to look at where you've come from and perhaps look forward to where you're looking forward to going. I know that for myself, early on I was really proud of a lot of my pictures, even though I had no idea how to control white balance. So a lot of my early pictures have people who are bright orange, because I didn't know what I was doing then. They're not necessarily bad pictures, but looking back at them, they're not as good as I remember. What I recommend doing is taking a look at your favorite picture that you've taken, and just pause for a moment. Think about what makes that picture so good. Is it something in the lighting or the composition of the picture? Do you use a nice blend of colors? Maybe you just so happen to hit the trigger at the right time to capture a cool moment. Just think about all the little things that make the picture work, and then pull away from it for a while. Go out, take some other pictures, just take a break, and then come back to your picture. Is there anything about the picture that you think could be better? One of my favorite pictures that I've taken, for instance, is of a seagull on a beach, and I shot it at just the right second. I processed the picture after I'd taken it, and I posted it. It's like, I was so proud of this picture. And then, over time, I came back to this picture, and I still liked it. But I noticed that it wasn't as good as I initially thought. There were some distracting elements in frame, and my processing, while decent, wasn't great. So I reprocessed it and put another version of that picture out there. It's not a perfect picture, but it's one that I'm still proud of, even if I'm aware of its flaws. So after you've done this hard thing, recognizing what needs to improve in your own work, you need to do the harder thing, actually improving your future work. Honestly, this is one of the hardest things to do as a photographer. For myself, I'm very much aware of the fact that a lot of the time, I leave way too much headroom in my pictures. It's like in a lot of my pictures, there's just like this big blank negative space above my subjects. I need to be more actively aware of my composition when I'm shooting. The trouble is, I just get so wrapped up in talking to my subject, if it's a model, a human model, or I suppose cat model, maybe. Sometimes you talk to the animal models when you shoot them, that's just how it goes. But no, getting back on topic. Sometimes, yeah, you can get distracted with worrying about your camera settings and lighting and other technical bits and bobs that you forget what it is that you're trying to apply. I've been there before, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there again. Number 2, accept a challenge. So, you've challenged yourself to get better. Now what? Well, personally, I recommend taking a look at somebody else's photo challenge. That is to say, there are a lot of different photo challenges on the internet. I personally recommend the Dogwood 52 one, although that one's going away. It's being replaced by something called Capture 52. But the short of it is that these photo challenges push you to do something different with your photography. For Dogwood 52, I participated in 2018, and I remember it was split into a couple categories. There were technical challenges, and then there were more artistic challenges. So the technical challenges were to use techniques like shutter drag or portrait lighting in your pictures, whereas the more artistic challenges were geared towards such things as applying an overall theme to your pictures, like humor, for instance. One of my favorite challenges in the Dogwood 52 was the flattery, in which you had to take a picture that was inspired by the work of another photographer whose work you admire. The great thing about the Dogwood 52 challenge is that it pushed me to make stuff. Not all the stuff that I made was great. Sometimes I was just rushing to try and get the prompt done. I know that I didn't do every prompt for Dogwood 52 in spite of my best efforts. I just couldn't make the alphabet photography thing work. I'm sorry, guys. But I wound up learning new techniques that I might not have otherwise applied myself to learning if not for the weekly challenge. If you're looking for a new weekly challenge that you can participate in the style of Dogwood 52, the Capture 52 challenge I recommend taking a look at. It's pretty much Dogwood's successor. I'll have a link to that on the photo channel on our Facebook page. If you'd like to participate in a photo challenge with our community over here at the photo channel, well, I do run a photo challenge of my own. It's called the #MakeYourPick Challenge, and it goes along with our show, Make Your Pick. Creative name, I know. To participate in that, well, you've got to know what the month's prompt is. Again, we post that on our Facebook page and Instagram page. If you want to be the very first to know, you've got to watch the show. Number 3, learn your gear. Now, photography is both an art and a science. While it is more important, in my opinion, to be creative with photography than technically minded, understanding what equipment you're working with will go a long way in letting you get creative. That is to say, when you know the techniques, it's going to be easier to make the pictures that you want to make. Generally speaking, I recommend learning how to use your camera's manual mode. If you're using a DSLR or mirrorless camera on the mode dial on top of the camera, there should be a mode that's just labeled M. That's most likely your manual mode. Some people wonder, why shoot manual when you can just set your camera in automatic and let the camera sort out the lighting and everything for you? Well, that's just it. When you shoot automatic, your camera decides everything. It decides what ISO the picture is going to be shot at. ISO, in case you're unfamiliar with the concept, basically it's your camera's sensor's sensitivity to light. So at lower ISOs, your pictures come out darker. However, they're also cleaner. If you crank up the ISO, your pictures are going to be brighter, but they're also going to have a lot of little fine grain in them. This is what we refer to as noise, and it's not generally desirable for your pictures. Some people like the look of noise. Personally, I tend to stay away from it. Perhaps you are at a family dinner, and somebody just stood up to give a speech, and they're about to get to the funny part of the story, and you're taking a picture, and your flash goes up. You've kind of just disrupted things a bit. So having control of your camera can spare you a bit of embarrassment, but it can also let you make the pictures that you want to make. Take a look at this picture. This picture was only possible because I shot in manual mode. If I were to shoot this picture in automatic mode, what my camera might have wound up doing is trying to light my subject properly. See, the picture's a silhouette. So the way that I set my camera, lighting-wise, is so that it's set to expose properly for the lights behind the subject. In automatic mode, my flash might have gone off, or the camera might have tried to expose for a longer period of time, and considering the fact that I was in a museum, where you're allowed to take pictures but not allowed to bring a tripod, that would not have resulted in a very good picture. Even if you are using a cell phone for your pictures, a lot of modern cell phones come with a manual or pro mode with their camera application. Even if your phone's camera doesn't have a manual or pro mode, you can probably download one of those from whatever the proper app store is for your phone. So learning to control your ISO, your shutter speed, your flash, these are all important elements in making the pictures that you want to make.
Number 4. Learn the lights. Photography literally translates out to light writing. With no light, there is no photography. When you learn to use light, whether it's natural or artificial or a mix of the two, you go from taking pictures to making pictures with skill and intent. Learning how light can sculpt facial features, affect your composition, and change the mood of a picture makes a world of difference to your photography. If you're new to photography, I recommend experimenting with light, perhaps first with light modifiers. I'm not saying to run out and spend $500 on equipment. You can buy a poster board for a few dollars and use it as a reflector. Do some experiments with light.
Number 5. Find what inspires you. I know, this part sounds like super lame and cliche, but honestly there's a truth to it. There's a reason this has become cliche advice, and it's because it works. No art exists within a vacuum. In fact, nothing exists in a vacuum at all. That's the whole point of a vacuum. What I'm saying is that you should take a look at the work of other photographers and learn from it. Now for you, this might be a technical exercise. You might look at another photographer's lighting and composition and say, okay, when I construct my pictures, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And that's fine. Or you might just look at other photographers' work that makes you want to get out and create. One of my favorite photographers, for instance, is The Art of Jumping on Instagram. And she creates some really great pictures. Pictures of people jumping. And while I don't necessarily follow her for technical reasons, I don't tend to do jumping shots of people. I've done a couple, but not very many. Just seeing her work inspires me, and it makes me want to get out there and take pictures. So find somebody like that for you, who either makes you want to push yourself technically, or just get out and make more pictures. Number 6, bonus advice. Stick with the photo channel. Okay, yeah, I get it. We're a little bit biased here. A lot biased here. But keep doing what you're doing. Keep giving yourself photography education. There's a ton of it available for free on the internet, and a lot of it's really good. The photo channel, that's mine, but that's just one source. There are plenty of places to keep learning about photography. Photography is an interdisciplinary art. It's multifaceted. I have one way that I like to talk about it, but there's tons of people with tons of ways, and it doesn't just have to be videos on the internet. There are also books about photography that I recommend picking up, and if you get the chance, find fellow photographers and work with them. The point is, keep putting in the effort to learn. It's well worth it. And the other thing too is that it's one thing to learn about photography, but it's another thing to get out there and do it. So don't worry too much about being good or great. Some people get so wrapped up in worrying about if they've got the right gear, or if their technique is good enough to actually take pictures in the first place. And I understand that the anxiety of that can be a little bit paralyzing, but don't let it stop you. Yes, worry about getting better, but first worry about doing it at all. So what advice do you have about photography? Is there anything that you found has helped you to get better at the art of taking pictures throughout the years? Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ThePhotoChan with 2 N's, and be sure to share your thoughts. We'd be happy to share them on our next episode. Also, don't forget to check out the hashtag #MakeYourPicChallenge. That's the hashtag that we use on Instagram for sharing pictures that'll be part of our next episodes. Time may be the fire in which we burn, but it's also the school in which we learn. So, make good use of your time this year. Spend some time getting better at photography. You'll not regret it.